next comedian is a genuine, middle-aged, middle-class, Middle England vicar. What could possibly go wrong? And if you want to know why a vicar does comedy, it's really nice to talk to more than 4 people. Obviously, church attendances are declining rapidly, and we have to do the office every day, whether or not anybody turns up, including Holy Communion with bread and wine. And I don't want you feeling sorry for me, I don't, because I am the only person here who's actually paid to start drinking alone at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Now, being a vicar, I will be making jokes about God, and I understand that many of you won't know what I'm talking about, so let me explain. God is what we used to use before we got the internet. Back then it was simple. It was, God, I could kill my boss. Thou shalt not commit murder. Now it's, God, I could kill my boss. I found 6 ways to kill your boss. It's 2024, which means it's 30 years since the Church of England allowed women to be vicars. But still some people don't get it. I was in the supermarket the other day and a little girl, about 6, comes up to me and goes, "What's that?" And I went, "It's a dog collar." And she said, "Oh, are you a rescue?" I said, No, I'm a vicar. And she said, "Oh, so you live in the big house with the spiky roof and all the dead people in the garden?" Well, kinda, yeah. And she said, "Did you always want to be a vicar?" And I went, "Oh, no, when I was your age, it was quite impossible for me to be a vicar." She said, "Okay." And she went away and she took her mum's hand and she walked off, and that lovely piercing voice little girls have, she said, "Mummy, look at that lady over there. She's older than God." So, we know some of you had a decent Christmas. Yes, you had a nice Christmas? You lucky bastards. All vicars secretly hate Christmas. We all hate Christmas. And the reason? The Nativity play. Never work with animals or children. First of all, you have to cast Mary. Mary is the star of the show. So, gentle Mary, meek and mild, goes right out of the window. There's fighting, there's bitching, there's kicking, there's a pulling of pigtails, there's blackmail, there's bribery, and that's just the parents. And once you've got your Mary, then you've got to try and coerce somebody into being Joseph. Now you'd think Joseph would be popular, but oh no. Wise people have crowns and gifts, shepherds have sheep and crooks, angels have halos and wings. Joseph just stands there with your mum's tea towel on his head. Nobody wants to be Joseph. In fact, usually Joseph has to be played by Mary's mum in drag because Mary's dad wants to be an angel. I am predicting some trouble in that marriage later this year. Now, remember, I did say wise people because we can't have wise men anymore. So we have wise men and women, we have kings and queens, and all possible determinations of the word queen. And little girls usually bring much more practical gifts for Mary. They'll bring something like a tin of mince pies or some chocolates. Or they might even bring a baby crow to replace the swaddling bands. But one little girl bought her pet mouse. This was not a good idea. It made Mary scream, throw the baby Jesus up in the air and run off down the aisle. Yes, when the baby Jesus hit the ground, his head did fall off. Now, I live in rural Devon, so we don't have children dressing up as the sheep and the donkey. We have real sheep and a real donkey, which is why there isn't any genuine hay in the manger and why the church cleaner has the best roses in the village. It was the year when the donkey ate the baby Jesus. To be fair, he was a rag doll stuffed with straw that, but it didn't look very good. We do tend to say no to the ox because I have a Norman church, so it's as fragile as a china shop, but we do welcome the Christmas chickens. This year, unfortunately, the parish council insisted they went in a cage because apparently, although eggs in the manger are acceptable, guano in the font is not. We do not, however, have the Christmas lobsters, unlike Love Actually. The reason for this is because the Nativity took place 35 miles from the sea in an age when they didn't have refrigerated camels. Also, Jewish folk don't eat crustaceans, whereas we Christians really rather like a lobster, and we atheists and we all sorts of people really, really like a lobster. So it's thoughts and prayers at this difficult time for our shellfish friends. But the donkey is always welcome. The donkey's called Nazareth, which is ironic. The donkey comes from the local donkey sanctuary, and Mary leads him up the aisle. She won't ride him. She will not ride him, and the donkey doesn't even carry anything, so it's the most pointless beast of burden on the planet. You know, leading a donkey up to the... Oh dear. Anyway, this year I did manage to persuade Mary to ride the donkey. So down the aisle she's going, with Joseph leading the donkey. Joseph's actually got a part now with Mary and the donkey. And everything's going very well until that sodding mouse turns up again. Donkey goes up in the air, Mary falls off, splat on the ground. She wasn't hurt, but the realistic bump underneath her dress did fall out, so the baby Jesus was innovatively born on the way to Bethlehem to the accompaniment of the correct kind of screams of giving birth. It's fair to say that both my mother and my bishop think I should get a proper job. Speaking of my mother, I mentioned Middle England at the beginning. Middle England is all the people who think they're better than they actually are. You know, the sort of, a bit like Hyacinth Bouquet, and my mother is the queen of Middle England. I am in recovery. You can always tell a Middle Englander because they travel with sandwiches, homemade sandwiches. And they're quite often sitting on the side of the road in a lay-by, and they're folding up chairs. And they do things like referring to porridge as haute cuisine. And they're always ferociously polite, and they don't approve of anything that's less than 50 years old. And my mother always, whenever the James Bond movie comes on the telly, Dr. No, she goes, Dr. No, thank you. And as I've only been a vicar for 20 years now, it doesn't fit into the 50-year category. So when I told my mum I was going to be ordained, she said, but what am I going to tell my friends? I said, well, you could tell them I'm a crack dealer. You could tell them I'm an international terrorist. Tell them I shop at Trago Mills. Don't be silly, dear, it's not that bad.